My love for music started with classic rock, weirdly enough. 11 years old, sitting in my buddy Nick's basement, listening to bands like Led Zeppelin, Rolling Stones, Molly Hatchet, Deep Purple. And of course, that is when I found marijuana and started smoking marijuana and listening to classic rock, and it was the best. I was wearing Led Zeppelin shirts and had hair down to my shoulders and was smoking pot and started smoking cigarettes and loved every single second of it. Burned an egg champ and smelt like patchouli. Then one weekend in 1995, I went to visit my brother in college in Aurora, Ontario, and met his roommate Matt, who insisted that I go buy the compilation Survival of the Fattest and Fat Music for Fat People, and these two compilations changed my life forever. Fat Music for Fat People introduced me to the great Winnipeg, Ontario punk rock band Propaganda. Let me unleash the beast and skateboard like a maniac until I'd almost break my neck because I was so pumped up with them in my headphones. Lagwagon, letting me access my more emotional disappointment side and giving me a venue for melancholy. Guns and Wankers, fantastic for parties. No Use for a Name, doing vocal harmonies that I had never even considered before. Tilt, Cinderblock was one of my first crushes. In Face to Face, I bought every album they've ever put out, and I keep track of them still to this day. 88 Fingers Louie, making simple music done rockin', and Rancid introduced me to Epitaph Records and the Punkaramas I could do a whole nother video on, but I'll keep it short. Then I heard Kill All the White Men by NoFX, and this groundbreaking Fuck the Man song turned my brain into mashed potatoes. I went to the Sam the Record Man in Kitchener Waterloo and bought every Fat Records album that I could buy, all the compilations, as many NoFX and Lagwagon and Propaganda CDs that I could get, and I started my collection. That unfortunately got stole from my 1991 Ford Bronco in college. All my CDs and tapes got stolen in one shot. It was the worst thing basically that's ever happened to me. But over the years, I have recollected, and I'm pretty happy with my collection right now. But if I still had all those CDs and tapes that I had when I was a kid, all of my fast food McDonald's money got spent all towards CDs from Fat Records, Epitaph Records, Hellcat Records, Stomp Records, and that's where it all began. Then I got into hip hop. It was 2008, and my buddy Reptilian had heard me freestyle rap really disgusting stuff at parties and entertain people with it in a couple of freestyle sessions and get back seats of cars at parties and things like that, passing doobies around. And he realized that I could actually rap a little bit, so he encouraged me heavily to start rapping. At this point, I owned my own townhouse, and he used to come over with beats, jacked beats, ripped beats, stolen beats, illegal beats, and we would make mixtapes after mixtapes. And he said to me, Wilkshake, there's this new site called Spit Boss that cannabis started, and you're going to be a part of it. So he took me to the webpage and we signed up. Now, to join Spit Boss, there was a bit of an audition process, and you're allowed to upload a maximum of 3 songs to be reviewed to see if they wanted you to be in the club, because that's basically what it was. It was a club for elite artists to share their craft and co work together and collaborate on tracks together. So we sent 3 in. Couple days went by, they let us in, and now I have access to MCs like Mark D's, Cass Solo, Damo, K Reno, uh, Pirate, and a bunch more. M80. There was so many MCs that I now could just send a message and start a track with. So I did. And I released 45 tracks, Spitboss Kid mixtapes, volume 1 through 3, and a bunch of individual mixtapes that we made on top of that, and a bunch of collaborative tracks. I got tracks. I did tracks with the guys from Russia, and I got to work with all these amazing artists. And while I'm doing this and collaborating with all this hip hop, with all these amazing artists that are elite and skilled and seasoned in their craft, I'm listening to punk rock. I'm not even listening to hip hop at all. Like totally uninfluenced by hip hop art while I was doing hip hop with a whole bunch of elite MCs. And of course, Reptilian is a cannabis connoisseur and a lifetime follower of cannabis, but I'm just a punk rocker from Elmira. I have no idea who Cannabis is. I just know that he runs this website that apparently I'm going to go make some music with these guys that are on this website. That's my frame of mind. But then I started listening to Cannabis. Then I started hearing Cannabis bars and Poet Laureate Infinity and met all these mixers and rippers like Lady Poetic. I met her in a cannabis community. Lethal was the moderator of CIF. That's like my first forum I was ever a part of. And Cannabis unleashed this this brotherhood inside me where it's like I can do this with hip hop. I can start a communication system with hip hop. I can start an artist network with hip hop. I can make albums. I can record 1,000 bars a cappella and let people chop it up with all these illegal beats that were spreading around like wildfire for nothing. Long story short, I was a hip hop collaborator who never even really listened to hip hop. I guess that's what made me unique. Punk rock and hip hop. I realized at that point, it's like when I'm making a punk rock track and I'm trying to write lyrics to say "fuck the man." Well, I could do that exact same thing with hip hop, and I don't have to record the music. I don't have to make a drum loop, and I don't have to record a guitar track and a bass track and two vocal tracks. I can just get a beat, spit a verse, and be on to the next. And it's always been a matter of volume for me, more so because I have to escape it from myself. I have to exert it. I have this creative energy, and it doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just have to fucking get it out of me. I just have to get it out of my body. And that's why punk rock and hip hop were perfect for me because punk rock's really easy to play. So I lay down a 4 chord riff, a 3 chord riff, power chords, lay down a drum loop, and I got a song. Hip hop, I slap a beat in a recording software, I make a vocal track, and I only have to mix one track down. And during this process, I'm hearing these verses that these MCs are sending back to me, and I'm listening to the beats and I'm listening to what they're talking about and the content of the time, like 2012 conspiracy rap, flex bars. I'm learning all this stuff about lyrical fitness and what it means to be a valued MC, like I consider cannabis to be, because he's a wordsmith and he's knowledgeable. It encourages education, the hip hop I was listening to in the early 2010s. It encourages growth. That's the best part about it. That's why I fell in love with all the people that I met. And I started off really listening to hip hop through collaborations. Like people, they released the Collective Alliance. Collective Alliance. There was like 56 tracks on there, and it's all independent underground hip hop artists. So that's the first real hip hop that I got addicted to, is underground collaborative networked hip hop from the internet. It was from the goddamn internet. So now I'm in this very peculiar position. I'm this hip hop artist, and I have dozens of hip hop tracks with legendary MCs like Cannabis and K Reno and Damo and Mark D's and Cass Solo and M80 and a bunch more. So many more. Cults. There's dozens. I shouldn't have named any. But and now I'm in the situation where it's like, wow, I'm really immersed in this world of hip hop, but I don't know jack shit about hip hop. What the fuck am I gonna do about that? So that's when I turned to YouTube. I'm like, YouTube. And once again, this was all reptilian. I'm like, reptilian. I want to learn more about hip hop. I don't know what to do. Can you make me playlists? Like, can you fill me with hip hop? Can you like make me your understudy? Give me some hip hop. I got to listen to hip hop. I got to absorb as much as it is possible. And he's like, yo, Wilkshake, you should start a reaction channel. I'm just like, what the fuck is a reaction channel? So he shows me a couple hip hop reactions. I can't remember who they were. I wish I did. And I'm like, oh, so you just listen to it and talk about it and tell the people how it makes you feel? I can do that. I'm a pretty sensitive dude. I can get down with this stuff. Let's do it. I started off with the big guys like Biggie Smalls and Tupac, and then a bunch of Bone Thugs started getting commented on my videos. So I'm like, yeah, I should get to some Bone Thugs. And that's when the gates and the vaults and the water kind of overpowered the gate. And there was a flood of comments about Bone Thugs this, and you got to listen to this, and Biggie Smalls this, and exhibit this, and all this stuff, and this is West Coast best hip hop on the West Coast, best hip hop from New York, and I'm overwhelmed. I'm like, how am I going to control this input? So I started getting people to email me requests, and then all of a sudden my email is filled with hundreds of requests. And I'm like, oh my god, this is crazy. And then I got 1,000 subs, so I had access to the community page. I'm like, oh good, now I can have them all right here. And the community page from my original channel 6 years ago is still the ticket to how I run these shows to this very day, which we're going to get into right now. So now I'm at the point where I'm listening to literally hundreds of hip hop songs that I've never heard before every week, like hundreds, 20 a day. I'd sit down and I'd do live reactions for 5 hours, and I listened to like 30 songs. It was ridiculous. And that's how I met Ignacio and Kaiser. Those are the OGs. that had been with me for like 4 or 5 years. And then Chuck came a couple years later, and Presto came around the same time. And we started, and I'm like, okay, guys, they were involved in the chat, much like you guys are, whoever's watching this at this point in the video. They were super involved in the chat, and they were creating friendships and bonds and commonality and having things in common. And it was a beautiful thing to see. So I'm like, I have to take this to the next level. I love this music. I'm loving all the Bone Thugs. I'm loving all the like Alcoholics and Wu Tang and Onyx and Busta Rhymes and all the stuff that I was getting into back then, and knowing these names but not knowing anything about the music, it was all generating a community. I'm like, this is nice, but these 5 hour shows by myself are enduring and grueling and hard to get through. I need someone on screen with me so I can take a break, have a sip of my beer, take a couple breaths, think about what I'm gonna say. And Ignacio, he was the main guy in the chat. He was always there. He was always commenting every show. He was always there. I'm like, hey man, come on the show. So he came on the show, and together, me and him have been polluting our minds, actually enriching our minds with the sickest of hip hop for the last 4 years. And now I am a full blown punk rock hip hop head. And I might be the only one of my kind that listens to as much punk rock and as much hip hop as I do. They're equal, 50-50. I mean, at work all day, it's all punk rock all day. All my favorite bands I've listened to since I was 12. On that day in 1995 at my brother's condo with his roommate Matt, Survival of the Fattest, Fat Music for Fat People. I still listen to all those bands that I listen to all day at work since I was a kid. And now I have this whole new world of hip hop. So as you know, the state of the channel where it sits now, we have a very complex hip hop show that we operate. There's many different facets. And also me and my buddy Presto are doing a whole bunch of different genres like rock and country and metal. And I'm trying to expand my horizons. I was once very stubborn with the punk rock and didn't want to expand. I realize now that's a big regret I have as a music lover, is that I should have just let loose and enjoyed it all for what it was. There's so much good music out there that I'm not exposed to. And that's why I keep on doing this YouTube stuff, because it has taught me so much about music that otherwise I would have been remained ignorant to forever and died without knowing. So it really is a fantastic story of music. That is my musical story. I appreciate you all. Thank you for watching us until the end, and join us for a live show soon. Cheers.